Good morning and welcome back for another Tuesday with Breakfast with Bill. It's good to be with you. I'm Bill Tellerico, and with me again, as always, is Matt Rogers. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning.
So thankful for the feedback we had last week on last week's show. So many of you replied to us either via LinkedIn or direct message and giving us text, emails, and phone calls. We thought we'd continue on with this living with intentionality theme for today. So thank you guys for sharing that with us and sharing the impact it had. As always, these shows are much better and we're able to bring you more meaningful content when you give us that feedback and submit questions to us, which you can do directly, or you can always do to evan@tellericogroup.com. So evan@tellericogroup.com. Share any questions, comments, or thoughts and needs you might have, and we'll be happy to address those in upcoming shows. So again, staying with our theme of intentionality, I know, Matt, I had some feedback, and I think you shared some of that with me as well. So many people reached out and told us how important it was for them to think about finding their why. Right? And some of the folks that reached out and told me about their why, some of the feedback I heard was about, future state of who they might want to be.
Family
was a big one. And I think around family, it touches on so much. The family feedback we had was on a couple things. Number one, spending time with family, being present, right? And that's so hard to do. I think it's so hard for us to think about where we are. I moved my daughter Gina into college last week, a week ago today, actually, last Tuesday.
Did Susie stop crying yet?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
It's amazing that she still has tears. God bless her. It's amazing, but that's a big day. And I can share with you how I need coaching. And it was I reached out to Matt last Tuesday and was asking him a few questions early on about this, and this. And Matt ended our conversation. Do you remember what you shared with me?
I said, have fun, be where your feet are.
Yeah. Matt ended our conversation by telling me, go have fun and be where your feet are, which is a phrase we like to use that means be where you are, be in the moment. Don't be with your family thinking about work. Don't be with your family, doing this, reading emails and doing all these things that we don't need to be doing, that aren't time sensitive, that aren't urgent. It's about being with who you are or with the people who you're with, right? And the same goes for work. We can't be at work thinking about all the other stuff and fooling ourselves into, I had a really productive day, but it was all personal stuff. And you'll have those days, but it's about being where your feet are. And I love that phrase.
Yeah, and I think some people that revisited their goals or their why, because oftentimes we hear more sales,
right,
make more money,
right, vacation,
things like that. But, the why is really what stirs you, what moves you. If you're not a little bit emotional or you feel something inside whenever you think about your why, it's something that should cause you to motivate you to do things differently, to do the tough things, to pick up the phone and prospect or go into a meeting you don't want to with enthusiasm because you know how it fits into the bigger picture. So if it doesn't stir you, if it doesn't move you, if it's not emotional,
keep searching.
Yeah, stay there.
Yeah,
stay
keep searching for it a little bit more. It's funny when you think of your why, it's motivation such a big part of it because you think of it in two ways. The why is your motivation that motivates you, to do the things you do. It is your motivation. It's why you get out of bed. It's why you are who you are. But it also then flips and needs to motivate you to do more and to be more. So when you think of this process of living with intentionality, this is not a perfect list, but we came up with 5 steps that we'd like to think about. And last week we started and we began to touch on the why, right? So when we think about living with intentionality, it's really about connecting, understanding, defining, or documenting our why, right? That becomes our motivation. Then it moves from there into goal setting. Because if we know our why, but it doesn't motivate us to do anything more or be more, what are we doing? It's like it was an interesting exercise to identify. Then from goal setting, we need to move into planning because that's how we're going to get there, right? We're going to get there through the planning. And then we need to have some accountability to the process, accountability to ourselves. And then finally, we need to reflect. right? So once we reflect on it, it's how we're doing. So we spent some time on our why. Today we want to talk a little bit about goal setting, right, as we continue through this process.
And quickly before we get into that, I'm really excited to be doing this now. And what are we in, August? Because intentionality, goal setting, motivating, that usually happens around the holidays. That usually happens for many people January 1st with their New Year's resolution and what they're going to do.
By January 3rd.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's start today. Let's really wrap our heads around this today. Let's build healthy habits now. So when January 1st comes around, it's already part of who we are. Let's not wait. You always use, what is that, the Chinese proverb, when's the best time to plant a tree?
If you want shade, when's the best time to plant a tree? 25 years ago. When's the second best day to plant a tree? Today. So, yeah, and you think about if this has value and if we really want to connect with our why, live with intentionality, why do we have to wait till January 1st? Why not August 22nd, right? Why not do it now and live and every day? Because, I hate to tell you this, but some of us watching this, some of us participating in this might not be here January 1st. You don't know what life brings. So why would we wait to start living with intentionality for 4 or 5 months from now? So when we think about goal setting, once we have that why, the one example I'll use is family. One of the folks who I had an opportunity to connect with this past week talked about family and how important family is. What's that mean? What's that mean to have goal setting around family? We're never going to have work-life balance. We talk about that.
Sure.
How often people say they want work-life balance. There's no such thing, right? It's impossible to have work-life balance. But what is possible and what is realistic is work-life harmony. Right? So if we have goal setting around family, what are we going to do? What does that mean? And some of the things I think about would be carefree timelessness. How do we have carefree timelessness with our family? You're not going to have it if you don't have time with them, number one. But do we plan and think about, I want to be present for dinners a couple nights a week, whatever that might be, 3, 4, 5. Hopefully it's every night, because dinner together is the cement of the family.
Yeah, and especially when we start talking about things outside the office. I don't think we should lose SMART goals, right? Or being able to measure it. So for those people that just say, hey, I want to do more family time. I want to be present.
It's not good enough.
Yeah, and it's tough to track. So, if you are going to say, I want to be home for dinner more, what does that look like? 2 times, 3 times, 1 time, whatever it is. To some, that might feel awkward or silly that we're bringing scorecards and metrics into personal life. I love it, right? maybe you not so much, but it's really tough to know where you stand and know how you're doing and to progress if there isn't a scoreboard. Right. And it's just all gut instinct. And that felt good this week. Did it? Yeah. And something else that's interesting, I actually I took it from you, and for the first time, I think maybe January, February, we even talked about this, just your roles, right? The roles in your life. I pulled Paige into it, my wife, for the first time, and I didn't assume what looked like help or what I could do or anything like that. I asked her. If I'm going to be home more, if I'm going to be home more, we're going to spend more time together as a family, whatever it may be. What does that look like to you? What would feel good to you? So don't be afraid to ask your family, ask your spouse, ask your kids that if you are working on something, let's make it measurable. But if we're going to spend the time and effort, let's make it impactful.
What if you're afraid of asking your family for how many nights would you like me home for dinner, and the answer would be 0?
Less.
Yeah, right. How many nights would you guys want Dad around?
That's another topic.
Yeah, right. So, but Matt, you talk about the scorecard, or at least the metric of the number. And without a number, anything looks good.
Exactly.
Without a goal, without a measurement, anything looks good. We think we're having success when in fact we're failing miserably. So, if it's family, it's what's important. Do you want to have dinner more at home? And is there a number? Is it 2 nights a week? First of all, what is it now? And then what's realistic, right? So if now And you know, I've had great fortune of coaching some great people in the past. I'm so blessed to do what I do. And one night I was having a conversation with somebody I coach, and I was asking him to walk me through his day. And he's like, well, you know, I leave the office around 7 at night. I said, oh, okay. And he has young children at home. He has 2 young children under 3. And I said, why do you leave at 7? He goes, well, you know, if I leave at 6, I spend a little, or if I leave at 5:30, I spend a little more time in traffic, and I do this and I do that. He goes, so I leave at 7, and instead of having a 45-minute commute, I have a 25 or 30-minute commute. So, okay, and then what time do you get home? And he told me, I said, what time do your kids go to bed? What's bath time? He goes, well, my wife usually does baths around 7. So when I get home, the kids are bathed, and I hang out with them for about a half hour, and we put them to bed. Oh, okay. I said, so what if you and what do you do at work between 5:30 and 7? And he said, well, I do, you know, clean up my emails for the day. Mm-hmm. And, you know, as I tend to challenge from time to time, I don't know if you know this,
Really?
Matt, I can be direct.
Really?
Yeah. So from time to time, I can be direct and challenge people that I love enough to help them identify the truth. I said to him, on your deathbed, if you're given another day or you're given another 4 hours, what's the likelihood of you saying, I'd love to take about an hour and a half to return emails? Right. The chances are probably pretty low. But what if we could give you an opportunity to give your kids a bath and put them to bed? Would you appreciate that? And he was struck. You know, he was a little convicted by that. And I said, why can't you leave the office at 5:30, spend the extra 15 minutes in a commute, but be home and be with your kids for 2 hours before they go to bed, participate in dinner, participate in bath time, put them to bed, and have that connectedness with them, right? The emails you're replying to at 6 o'clock from 6 to 7, you could easily reply to from 9 to 10, right? Because there's no greater impact. They're not going to have, it's not like getting them the answer at 6:30 is somehow saving them versus getting it at 9:30. But that time with your children will never be replaced. And he was a little convicted. And, you know, about a month or two later, in another coaching session we had, he tearfully thanked me. And he said that, you know, he'd been participating in bath time. And by the way, that's not on me. This isn't about me. It's just about the realization of the time we waste. You know, I can't tell you how many times I wake up in the morning and, you know, I'm putzing around or doing this or doing that. And you look at Instagram. And lately I've been striking myself and saying, like, how could you look at Instagram before you pray? Or how could you look at Instagram before you talk to your wife? How could you do these things and waste this time on TikTok, on Instagram, on Reels, or whatever it is? How do we waste so much time and then tell people we're busy? We're not busy. We're wasting time. At least for me, right?
Yes. So I'm not sure who that individual was, but great story. Something that I think about is how do we bottle that and keep that? Because in the moment, and probably for those next couple months, and he thanked you, you know, a month or two later. But so often, people that we coach, people that we interact with, we can get fired up about that why today. We can hold that energy and enthusiasm through February, March, if we're lucky. But I think one of the most important things about goal setting and writing it down and being able to track it and see it is that it keeps it top of mind. Right. For so many people say, oh, yeah, I have goals. Absolutely. I know my metrics. You know, where are they? Some are up here. I think there's a napkin in my desk. Yeah. And something's at home. It is so important. And every once in a while you run into an individual that's a seasoned salesperson, and they've been doing it for so long, and it's just innate who they are. I don't care if it's your first day or your last day. It is so important to have goals and clearly defined goals. Not, again, going back to the theme, it feels like for me today, of better, more,
right?
Because those are just gut judgment calls. And so how are they smart? How are they measurable? I think is really, really important. And by having it in front of you, there's so many studies in psychology about it not only being more achievable, but it keeps it top of mind.
Yeah, it reinforces. And, you know, that's everything from goals. You know, sometimes goals can be numbers like Matt talks about, because I can't measure better and more. Right? Like Friday, I can't look and say, did I do more? Was I better? Right? I sure can look and measure and say I did 4. or I did 10 or whatever. It's important. So I need that number. The other thing that might be important to you as you go through goal setting can be words. You know, there's a lot of power in having words that drive us, either whether it's the word of the year, which was a book actually that somebody wrote about the power of having the word of a year that drives everything you do. Sometimes it's a virtue. You know, for us and my family, I've mentioned before, our virtue of the year last year was gratitude. It worked so well, and we needed to have so much gratitude for the year 2020. It carried over to 2021. So we're working on gratitude again. I quite frankly don't know if we'll ever exit gratitude.
I don't know. I mean, that's just taking the easy way out, I think.
No. Well, we'll add more, but I don't know if we'll ever get away from articulating
it's
what
so
we're
important.
grateful for. You know, the power of going around and saying to someone else what I'm grateful for, it's transformative. So, you know, that's part of it, having that in front of you. And it starts to change the mind. It starts to change, in many ways, your DNA, believe it or not, and makes you more grateful, or makes you more virtuous for that virtue that you're pursuing, or for that word of the year that you want to embrace. So the goal setting is critical, putting numbers to it, putting measures to it.
Time stamping it.
Yeah, absolutely time stamping it, right? And by the way, having some reminders of it. You know, we're going to get into next week around some time management and energy management, which the energy management concept is relatively new. It's been new for me. And, you know, for years and years and years, people have talked about the importance of time management, but the real power, the transformative power of management is energy management, where your energy flows, right? So, you know, there's a phrase where focus goes, energy flows. So we'll talk about that a little more next week, but thinking about the goals. So what is your why? What are the goals? And, you know, we talk oftentimes about role-based goals. Role, R-O-L-E, role-based goals, right? What are those role-based goals that you have? And part of that is with the why. You know, so as we identify our why, what's important to us, you think about your role and that why. What are the roles you serve? My roles are husband, father, son of God, or my faith, salesperson here, and leader. And then, you know, oftentimes, depending on the stage of life or the stage of the year, son is very important. I have a role as son, and sometimes volunteer. And the way to think about the roles is that we want to build goals for. Think about the roles as the things that demand your time or deserve your time. So, you know, at work, we have our role as salesperson, sales leader, whatever it might be. That demands our time. But for me, in my faith, being a husband, being a father, being a son, they deserve my time. So the things that demand or deserve your time are the things we should be setting goals for.
Yeah, and that took off for many people when we did that at the beginning of the year, or maybe late last year when we talked about planning. So for those of you that did do that exercise, how's it going now?
Yeah.
Have you kept up with it? If not, great opportunity to dust it off, polish it up a little bit. Plenty of time before the end of the year, the end of the fiscal, to again get that habit. Don't wait. Don't procrastinate.
Don't wait for January 1st.
Yeah, you could set those goals now. And goals, mind you, daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually. That sounds probably really scary to people, to anybody out there that doesn't necessarily have all those, but it's important. If you look at just the framework of where we're going, you know, the why, and now you break it down, the goals should funnel to that why. The goals are the train tracks and the mechanism to feed your why. So don't be afraid to break it out daily. We talked micromanagement a couple weeks ago, and when people hear daily or weekly goals, they're thinking, I'm micromanaging myself if I do that. But it is so important to have that task clarity, to have that roadmap, because as you said, we could fall trapped to wasting time, to being on our phone, to convincing ourselves or rationalizing that what we're doing is far more important than what we could be doing. Don't get me wrong, downtime. When it goes in relaxation, energy management, I'm sure that will play into that as well. That is important. But let's not fool ourselves. Let's not make something more urgent than it really is and rationalize when oftentimes we know what to do. It's just a matter of being disciplined and mentally tough to go execute it on a daily basis.
Yeah. And Matt talks about having numbers versus adjectives, right? So 5 instead of more. And, that works in every aspect. It's one thing to say, oh, I want to be healthier. Family's important to me. I want to be around a long time, so I want to be healthier, which means I want to lose 30 pounds this year. Okay, well, I can't manage that. I can't manage 30 pounds because that's a year. So what would I do? I might want to say, well, I want to lose, what's that, half a pound a week or something like that. But how do you measure that versus I want to manage how many snacks I have, or I want to manage how I do this, or I want to manage how many times a week I work out versus I want to lose 30 pounds, because the 30 pounds in a year, I can get to that in 12 months, right? Versus I want to work out 3 days a week. I can manage that. So be mindful of these goals, measure them, get them on paper, make them smart, and commit to them. And I think you'll start to see some improvement and living with intentionality. So,
and Bill, real quick, if anybody needs help making them measurable or making them SMART goals, feel free to reach out. We've been pretty creative over the years when we've had these discussions. So if you're thinking and stumped of how do I make it SMART, how do I make it measurable, please reach out. I'm sure we can come up with a way to track it and measure, because I love to do that.
I was smiling because I was thinking, wait till 2 weeks from now when we talk about accountability, and Matt offers his help then. Oh, boy. So, well, hey, thank you guys as always. It's been a pleasure being with you today. And we appreciate the opportunity to talk with you about goal setting. Look forward to being with you next week when we talk about our time and energy management as we can continue down this path of living with intentionality, which helps us become better in every aspect of our life. It makes us more effective and profitable salespeople, better leaders, better spouses, better people. So thanks for being with us. Appreciate you all.
Have a
Take
good
care.
week.
God bless.